All right, good morning, everyone. ZASLOW Show 2.0 here. It is a Wednesday morning, the second morning of November. Good to have you aboard, however you're listening to this show. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Google, wherever you're listening to this show. We love you long time, and of course, we're uploading all kinds of stuff on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@ZASLOW Show. Got a big show today. This is a big news reaction show. That's right. ZASLOW Show 2.0 presented by Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. You got a personal injury, any kind of an accident, slip and fall, car accident, motorcycle, truck. You don't have to be dealing with all the extra stuff. I send my friends and my family to Anidjar and Levine. Let my friends Anidjar and Levine help you out there. 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-FREE. So, a lot happening here. We got Dolphins we got to get to. The Dolphins were the big winners yesterday. The Dolphins were the big winners yesterday in the NFL trade deadline. Usually the trade deadline is a major dud. Nope, not yesterday. F them picks. You got the Heat last night. I told you our guys were going to get back on track last night. Sometimes you need that. You need a really... Now, I understand that the Warriors are now 3-5, same record as the Heat after that loss. But still, it's the Warriors, it's the defending champs, and it's a game you had to grind out. You had to come from behind, down 10 in the third quarter, and the Heat outscore the Warriors in the fourth period, 30-15. That's what I'm talking about. You think I need 2 and 6 in my life? They're back at it tonight. You got the second night of a back-to-back, home and home. You got the Sacramento Kings tonight. Looking for a little bit of revenge. Got the revenge on the Warriors last night after losing last week. Now they're looking to get the revenge on the Kings tonight after losing last week. No De'Aaron Fox. He got hurt a couple of nights ago. So we'll do plenty of Heat. The Dolphins are the major story. NBA. Look, the TNT crew. Shaq. I love Shaq so much. You know I'm a big Shaq guy. I love Shaq. NBA on TNT crew. Shaq. Barkley. They went after Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets. Steve Nash was fired a little bit after our show yesterday. So obviously we got to get into that. So we got a lot going on here today. I do want to start out by saying, for those of you guys who were listening to the Twitter Spaces yesterday, if you saw me on the Twitter Spaces yesterday, that was the first time I've ever done that. So yesterday afternoon, I talk to my girl Hollywood Joy Taylor all the time. All right, love that girl. She's the best. And Joy sends me a message. I don't know, she's in the middle of like a production meeting, for her show. So this is around like 3:30-ish, our time, because she's on the air at 4:30 FS1. And she sends me a message, she's listening to some of the shows. She's happy for me, and which is really great. I love her. And she says, you should go on Twitter Spaces right now and react. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm learning because I've been behind the 8 ball when it comes to... I don't want to say technology, although that is true, but when it comes to all the social media and how to use it, that's what I've really been learning over the last month since I'm not on the radio anymore, and I'm now in the digital space. I've been learning all of that stuff, and so Joy says you should go on Twitter Spaces right now, and you can react to everything that's going on. This is chaos. NFL trade deadline chaos, which, by the way, the Dolphins won. So, Zaz, you should get on that. And so she's sending me messages and screenshots because I don't know how to do it. I've never done Twitter Space. The only time I've ever done Twitter Spaces, I was invited by her to go on with her. That's the only, I clicked on something and she invited me and boom, all of a sudden I'm talking into my phone and it's on Twitter. That's my only experience with it. So she kind of explained to me how in the middle of her meeting. It was really nice of her. And she's texting me screen grabs and how to do it. So finally I figured it out. And I go on at 4 o'clock. So this Twitter Spaces, which was my first time really doing it, it's essentially, it's like doing a radio show. And I say radio show because it's like doing a radio show on Twitter. And it's like a radio show because you could take callers. So the people who are listening, they could request, call in to your Twitter Spaces show, and you click on them just like I used to, and click on the button to pull up the phone pod in the studio, and all of a sudden I got a caller. And so I did Twitter Space yesterday, and Joy came on with me a couple minutes in, and she brings obviously a lot of followers with her. So I was really thankful for that, because maybe there's some people who are discovering me, her former partner, for the first time. And so I had a lot of people on the Twitter Spaces yesterday. We took a few callers, and I that could be a fun thing to do every now and then after I record my show in the morning, like right now, and there's some kind of breaking news in the afternoon or in the evening. You do a Twitter Spaces, because obviously I got a lot more followers on Twitter than I do on Instagram. I was very late to the Instagram game. And so, so I appreciate Joy and everyone else who was listening, I guess. Yeah, listening on the Twitter Spaces. Yes, so that was new. So that's something that we could wind up doing moving on in the future. But I just want to shout out again to Joy Taylor. I'm really appreciative, and she's been really great and supportive, over the last few weeks. Anyway, so that was yesterday. It was a big news day. The Dolphins, and I said to Joy, I go, right before I let her go, 'cause she was on with me for like 10 minutes, and I said, and by the way, for folks who are asking, or wondering, thinking, ZASLOW, you used to get great guests on the ZASLOW Show. They're very connected. And Are you still gonna have guests doing ZASLOW Show 2.0? The answer is yes. Yes, I wanna get my footing. I wanna get comfortable here, doing what I'm doing, and soon we'll have guests. I'll obviously be doing the guests via Zoom, so that'll be super easy. All the guests that we do will be posted onto the YouTube channel at youtube.com/@ZASLOW Show. Everything will be posted there on the YouTube channel, and I will also mix it in, obviously, to ZASLOW Show 2.0. So yes, we will be having guests. Who's going to be your first guest? I don't know. I can't predict the future. We'll see. I'm trying to get through this week. I'm trying to get through today's show. All right. So, hang with me. We'll start integrating. We'll start mixing in some people. You know what I'm talking about. And also, if you missed the announcement yesterday, this Saturday, the debut. You've been asking for a wrestling podcast. You're going to get a wrestling podcast. This Saturday, the debut of It's Still Real to Me. That's the ZASLOW Show 2.0 wrestling podcast. It's Still Real to Me debuts this Saturday. Normally, it's going to be a Saturday morning thing. We recap the week's events, all the big news and stories in pro wrestling. This Saturday, the debut is actually going to drop like late afternoon, early evening-ish, because WWE Crown Jewel from Saudi Arabia is this Saturday, noon our time. So that show will end around 3:30-ish. And then we're going to get to tape in the show, and then we'll post it. So sometime late afternoon, very early evening, we will have the debut under the ZASLOW Show 2.0 umbrella. So if you're already a subscriber to the show, I love you a long time, and you're not going to have to do anything other than, check the feed, and boom, it's going to be there under the show. So It's Still Real to Me debuts this Saturday, immediately following WWE Crown Jewel. I'm very excited about that. I'm also excited. I'm going to CCW this Saturday night, Bash at the Brew in Hialeah. That's Coastal Championship Wrestling. For the wrestling fan, that's Gangrel's gym that he runs out of Pompano Beach, and they do shows at this bar in Hialeah. So I'll be going to Bash at the Brew this Saturday night. I'm really excited about that. I've never been to an indie wrestling show. I think it's going to be wild. And it's at a brewery, so come on. It's like it's a high school gym. It's at a brewery. I think it's going to be wild. So I'm excited for that. I'll be there this Saturday night. All right. Anyway, let's get down to it. So, what a huge day for the Dolphins yesterday. Now, yesterday on the show, we spent a bit of time talking about, hey, the Dolphins, you're in this thing. It's been forever since you felt like you were in this thing. The last few times that the team made the playoffs, the last time they made the playoffs, what are we talking? Was it 4 or 5 years ago with Adam Gase? You had Matt Moore starting the game, got your ass kicked by the Steelers. You weren't in it, all right? They weren't a contender. The last time they made the playoffs before that was it all the way back to 2008? Was it Pennington? They had to have made it 1 year in between there. I may not be remembering that properly. Although, after Sperano, you had Philbin. Philbin never made the playoffs. Then you had Gase. You made the playoffs one time. Flores didn't make the playoffs, and now you got McDaniel. So maybe the last time, wow, the Dolphins only had 2 playoff appearances in the last 14 years. Am I missing one? So 2008, I think it was, Pennington. And yeah, that year, it was a fluky year. Remember, the Dolphins were the best plus-minus team like ever They were never turning the ball over, creating lots of turnovers. Wildcat got their ass kicked in the first round at home by Baltimore. So this Dolphin team they haven't been in it in at least 20 years. Because you could say, hey, those Ricky Williams teams were really fun. They never made the play. I'm talking about the first 2 years of Ricky Williams when he led the league in rushing and he was just a monster. They didn't even make the playoffs. Like you feel like they were good, but they never even made the playoffs. So you're going back late 90s. I mean, or I guess 2000. Fiedler, the Lamar Smith game. Which was the last time the Dolphins had won a playoff game, by the way. So it's 2000 against the Colts, Lamar Smith game. The Dolphins haven't been in it in like a quarter century. It's been like 25 years. And yesterday was the Miami Dolphins front office telling the Dolphin fan, for sure, and telling the rest of the league, we're going for it. Yesterday was a great day for the Dolphin fan. The Miami Dolphins told everyone they're going for it. And I've been hard on Chris Grier. I got to give it up for Chris Grier. This team, now look, the team needs to win. And you could be a really lousy GM, which I felt like he was for a long period of time, and then you could turn it around. I mean, if you want to say Tua stunk his first couple years, you're not necessarily wrong. And now you could say he's turned it around. You can be bad, and then you can be good. And I could be super critical of Chris Grier, be right, and then also acknowledge now that Chris Grier, over the last, what are we talking, year plus, has done a pretty tremendous job. Look, I'm a big phony if I can't come around and admit that. If I can't say, yeah, I think Chris Grier was terrible, and now I think he's doing a tremendous job, I'm a big phony. I got to man up a little bit. I got to admit it. Chris Grier needs to win, but it would appear that the narrative is beginning to change. The team needs to win, but it would appear that the narrative is on its way to changing with Chris Grier. And it would also appear that the rebuild, starting with tank for Tua, right? Starting that year 0-7, Brian Flores' first season. It would appear that the rebuild, starting with tank for Tua, has worked. Yeah. Now, ultimately, you got to win. But if 3 years ago, we were doing tank for Tua, 4 years ago, we were doing tank for Tua, and now in 2022, we're talking about the Dolphins are going for it, then the rebuild worked. There's no other way to summarize it. 4 years ago, tank for Tua, started 0-7. And now, mid-season, they're making trades for Bradley Chubb, an elite pass rushing linebacker. They're giving up a first-round pick for F them picks. And they're telling everybody, we are in this thing, and we are going for it. That means the rebuild worked. That means it worked. Yesterday was a great day for the Dolphins. I'm so happy for the Dolphin fan. I'm happy for myself. I'm a Dolphin fan. I'm included there. I'm happy for myself. But I'm really happy for the Dolphin fan. Dolphin fan deserves it. And you know what? Stephen Ross is back off suspension, by the way. Was it last week, 2 weeks ago, the suspension was lifted? Say what you want about Stephen Ross. And I've always thought, look, he's kind of bumbling, and he could be a little bit dangerous because he's into his 80s and he's not necessarily going to care about the long-term ramifications about something that happens with a team. He cares about short-term. He doesn't know how many years he's got left. I'm not trying to kill Stephen Ross, but he doesn't know how many years he's got left. So that could be a little bit dangerous where you want to do things for now that aren't necessarily in the best interest of the team's future where, you may not be around. So he could be a little bit dangerous in that regard. But say whatever you want about Stephen Ross. He is always willing to spend. He wants to win. And obviously, they are going to give Bradley Chubb a new contract. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. You don't trade a first-round pick. Oh, but the Rams, they trade for Von Miller, then they let him walk. Von Miller, a lot older than Bradley Chubb. And Von Miller, they gave up, a second and a fourth for him? Dolphins just gave up a first-round pick. And a fourth, I think, the following year. And Chase Edmonds to make money work. And then acquired Jeff Wilson. We'll get to that. But you don't make that deal if you're the Dolphins. Oh, it's you give up a first-round pick, he's going to walk next year. No, he's not. No, he is not. You don't make that trade without definitely committing to extending him. Dolphins are in this thing. And let's circle back to that in a second. How about this? The first thing I thought about yesterday when they made this trade. 3 first-round picks you got in the Trey Lance deal. You know what? Let's even back it up. You could back it up a little bit. Let's back it up a little bit. Laremy Tunsil. So Laremy Tunsil, whatever day that draft was, that was 5 years ago, whatever it was. Laremy Tunsil is going to be one of the top picks in the draft. Remember, Mike Tannenbaum, Chris Grier was still there, but Mike Tannenbaum was running the show for the Dolphins. It's Tannenbaum. You know, by the way, where's Tannenbaum? Tannenbaum's got no problem going on television and yelling about Justin Herbert this, Justin Herbert that. He's the president of the Justin Herbert fan club. He doesn't like Tua. Look at you now. Look at you now. Where's Mike Tannenbaum? Hey, Tannenbaum, can you get on television and talk a little bit about Tua? And talk a little bit about how, hey, this is a real conversation to have now, whether or not Tua is definitely better than Justin Herbert. That's all nice and cute that Justin Herbert had the good first 2 years. How about now? How about now? How about winning football games? How about what's most important? How about now? How about Tua 5-0 this year in games he starts and finishes? I think he's like 11-1 in his last 12 games in games that he starts and finishes. Tannenbaum, look at you now. All right, anyway. Laremy Tunsil. Laremy Tunsil is about to be one of the top picks in the draft. And right before whoever it is on the clock, right before the draft starts, all of a sudden for the world to see, you got Laremy Tunsil in the gas mask. Laremy Tunsil, bong hits, gas mask, collision course. Now some of you are saying to yourself, ZASLOW, you know what that gas mask is about? No, I don't. I may have done some things. I have no experience with the gas mask, all right? Laremy Tunsil, gas mask. Everyone sees it. Drops. I think the 12th pick, Dolphins. Tannenbaum's like, F it. We're taking Tunsil. Who cares? I mean, seriously, who cares? Who cares? Laremy Tunsil, gas mask. You can play for us. Okay. Who knew that Laremy Tunsil wearing taking bong hits with the gas mask would lead to this? So the Dolphins eventually trade Laremy Tunsil a couple years later. And one of those they got 3 first-round picks, right? Well, one of those first-round picks they got from Houston ended up being the number 3 overall pick in the draft. They trade that pick to the 49ers. So Laremy Tunsil, one of those, I think it was 3 picks, 2 or 3, whatever it was. Laremy Tunsil would lead to the Dolphins trading that Houston pick, number 3 overall, for 3 first-round picks. Those first-round picks were moving down to number 12, a first-round pick this past draft, and another first-round pick next year. Okay? And with those 3 picks, last year, the Dolphins used one of those first-round picks to move up to 6 to get Jalen Waddle. The next year, this past April, they used one of those picks to trade for Tyreek Hill. And now they traded the last pick. Unfortunately, the Dolphins don't have their own pick next year because Stephen Ross. The Dolphins traded the final first-round pick, 2023, from the 49ers, which, by the way, You were hoping with Trey Lance that the 49ers were going to stink this year, and now it's going to be a very high pick for the Dolphins. They're 4-4 right now, and they just traded for McCaffrey. Garoppolo's a very competent quarterback. That's going to be, at best, a middling first-round pick. And the Dolphins traded that pick for Bradley Chubb, an elite pass-rushing linebacker. So, the Laremy Tunsil trade. One of those first-round picks, they had others. One of those first-round picks from Laremy Tunsil, which they only have because of a gas mask, turned into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb. It's a grand slam. That's what you call a grand slam. And I can talk all I want about Chris Grier and those 3 first-round picks. Tagovailoa, Austin Jackson, Noah Igbenogany, which, by the way, Tua is clearly a franchise quarterback. But I could sit here and say, you had 3 first-round picks and maybe you have a quarterback and you got nothing else with the other 2. Austin Jackson might return this week. Igbenogany, look, I love what he did against Pittsburgh, but he made 1 play 3 years. Anyway, I could be critical of Chris Grier. I could say he did a terrible job at the start of this rebuild. And then I could also come around and not be a phony. Because I feel like we talked about this a couple days ago with Dolphin fans, where Dolphin fans who think Tua stinks, they hope that they're going to be wrong. And they are wrong now. They hope they were going to be wrong. They think he stinks. But they would like to be wrong. And now they are wrong. So they're happy about that. I would want nothing more than to be wrong about Chris Grier. Thought he stinks. A couple years ago, felt real good about that. Now, it's looking quite different. And I'm glad. I'm glad I'm wrong about that. Because Chris Grier, with those 3 first-round picks that they got, it all goes back to a gas mask. Taking bong hits out of a gas mask. And 3 first-round picks in that Trey Lance deal. Which, by the way, think about that. Trey Lance may not amount to anything. And with those 3 first-round picks, the Dolphins turned it into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb. That is a grand slam that Chris Grier hit. Excellent job. Excellent job. Love it. Dolphin fan deserves it. Feel really good for the Dolphin fan. Really happy for the Dolphin fan. Here's the next thing. And this is also important. What's just as important as everything I just said with those trades. These moves show you are all in on Tua. What I mean by that is, ZASLOW, of course they're all in on Tua. The fact that they kept him this year, they're all in. No. Here's what I mean. You had that first-round pick, and it was especially the case before you had your own pick next year stripped because of the Stephen Ross, Tom Brady thing. You have that first-round pick next year just in case. You got 2 of the help this year with Tyreek Hill. You got that first-round pick next year. At one point, you thought you had 2. If it doesn't work out with Tua, this is the last stand. We go learn about Tua. And if you need to use those first-round picks on a quarterback, you're going to do that. Dolphins now have no first-round picks next year, and they are comfortable with that because they know they have a franchise quarterback. That's, if you didn't know it already, that's what yesterday also told you. The Dolphins know they have a first-round pick. The Dolphins know they have a franchise quarterback. That's what yesterday also told you. They totally believe in him, and they are going for it now. Oh, man, it's exciting. And here's another thing that's important. Going for it right now, see, this happened with the Seahawks. When the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, what was it, Russell Wilson's second year, they won the Super Bowl 40-8, right, over Peyton Manning's Broncos. They had the Legion of Boom, Marshawn Lynch. Russell Wilson wasn't making any money. If you are a good team, good to great team, and you have a young quarterback, a young franchise quarterback, the window is small, but you need to go for it during that small window because it's before the quarterback's making any money. The Seahawks had those years, I'm just using them as the example. The Seahawks had a franchise quarterback in Russell Wilson who was outperforming his rookie scale contract by 1,000,000 miles. That affords you a window to win. You can have all the other players making all the money. Once the quarterback needs to start getting paid. See, this is why I wasn't all in on giving Dak Prescott the money. I think you win with Dak Prescott, absolutely. But can you win with Dak Prescott when he's taken up such a huge chunk of the salary cap and you can't necessarily keep all the other good players? I don't believe you can. I don't believe he can carry the franchise. Russell Wilson, they won the Super Bowl when he was the franchise quarterback, far outperforming his contract, and you could spend the money elsewhere. So that brings us back to Tua. And here's why it's so important for the Dolphins to use this window of opportunity right now. Tua's got 2 more years, including this year, under his rookie scale contract. He is clearly outperforming his contract by 1,000,000 miles right now. Hey, by the way, you want to have a conversation about whether or not Tua's an elite quarterback? He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. Go look at the numbers. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But he's outperforming his rookie scale contract by 1,000,000 miles. That gives the Dolphins this small window right now where they can go for it because they could spend money in other places. Guys like Tyreek Hill, guys like Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard. They could spend money in other places. Teron Armstead. So if you have a franchise quarterback who you could win with, that's what a franchise quarterback is. If you have a franchise quarterback and he is outperforming his contract, he's only taken up a very small piece of your salary cap, the time to go for it is now. And that's exactly what the Dolphins are doing. This is a great opportunity for them to go all in because Tua doesn't make the massive money yet. Once Tua makes the massive money, things are going to change. Things are going to change in a big way really quick. Can't keep everyone at that point. Can you carry, there are guys like Mahomes, guys like Aaron Rodgers. Those guys can carry a franchise. They're taking a huge chunk. Now, Rodgers not anymore maybe, but you understand what I'm saying. They could take up a massive chunk of the salary cap and still carry a franchise, still take you to a Super Bowl, still win a Super Bowl. Brady. Can Tua do that eventually? I don't know. But right now, this year and next year, you got a couple years, you got a little window, you got a small window where he is not making the money. He is seriously outperforming the value of his contract. And that's when you need to take a shot at going for a Super Bowl. And that's exactly what the Dolphins are doing right now.